Welcome to present-day Ghana, where according to the International Monetary Fund, they've now produced one of the fastest-growing economies, and where the success and safety here rank alongside several countries in Europe. In the last few years, Black Americans searching for a real-life Wakanda started moving here in droves.
Hello everybody, Rashad McCrorey. I'm from Harlem, New York City.
40-year-old Rashad McCrorey runs a travel company and moved here during the pandemic. He says he's here living his best life and is not looking back.
It's all part of the systematic injustice that put us in a condition where a lot of times we have to come out of America to heal, to be places where we're not always the victims, we're not always in protection mode. And being in Africa right now and relocating out of the United States, whether it's temporary or long term, I feel myself healing. I'm starting to see Black people in love and unity.
That's some strong stuff, right? That you had to leave America to heal.
It's like now I'm on the outside looking in. You know, like what they say about a bad relationship. You're in a bad relationship, but you don't know it because it's all you know.
For the first time in his life, he says he's not afraid of the police.
Only in Ghana I have police friends. You know, in America, I refuse to have police friends no matter what the ethnicity is. And it comes from the system. I'm starting to see that people can have altercations and it doesn't have to turn into violence. That law enforcement isn't a villain. You know, it's so many things that I'm starting to see in a different light that's actually making me more of a whole person, showing me what reality is and actually showing how at sometimes diabolical systematic injustice is in America, because it has us thinking all out of whack. Music, you know, when I'm listening to Ghanaian music, I don't hear anything about fighting. I don't hear anything about shooting. I may hear ganja, you know, marijuana in some of the songs and alcohol. But when I listen to my American music, it's shoot, drugs, murder, you know, on everything. Here, we're not hearing that on everything. There's a lot of things going on in America that as Black Americans, we need to get away from time, you know, and hear see what real healthy living is about.
I'm the one in paradise. You come to paradise. Don't send me back to Babylon. Don't encourage me to go back to Babylon. I want to come, you know, I want y'all to come to paradise with me, and I want y'all to enjoy this sun.
Rashad McCrorey is an entrepreneur and the owner of Africa Cross Culture, a travel company that encourages African Americans to visit the African continent. He was in Ghana when the global pandemic forced borders to close around the world. Instead of going back home to Harlem, New York, he chose to stay in Ghana.
It was no reason for me to go home, and then that's when I began pushing for my family friends to visit me here.
A single man in his early 40s, McCrorey has traveled to African countries several times through his travel company, Africa Cross Culture.
What originally brought me to Ghana was I was hosting a tour for some other Black Americans for my travel company, Africa Cross Culture. So it was a group of 4. We was in Ghana for 6 March Independence Day. And as the trip started to progress, as we got later into the trip, we started hearing more news about just the coronavirus breaking out at home and threats of closing the borders and things getting serious. So maybe about a week or 2 afterwards, after my guests left, that's when President at the time, Donald Trump, announced level 4 travel warning, come home now or risk staying abroad indefinitely. So I said, you know what? I've been visiting Ghana 4 or 5 years. I've made some great connections. My money is pretty situated.
After weighing his options, McCrorey decided to stay in Ghana. This despite global predictions that the African continent would be the worst hit by the pandemic. New York City was suffering with the highest infection rates in America. Having pre-existing health issues, he felt Ghana was a safer place to be.
I'm asthmatic. I'm from New York City. That's not the ideal place to travel back to. And then ultimately, after praying to my father who just passed away, calling my mother, calling my friends in Ghana, and going over some things, you know, I decided to stay. And it's been an amazing decision. I did the right thing.
Despite the global fears of the pandemic in Africa, he says Ghana's environment helped in maintaining his health and wellness.
And then started to work on my inner self. I had a lot of time to have reflection. getting everyday sun, relaxing. I have lived in Aburi Botanical Gardens for some time, and just being in nature every day, getting good sun every day. Ghana has slowed down too, so I was in tourist sites by myself. I was in Bati Falls. For those who've been to Bati Falls, I was there by myself, just me and a camera person, and a lot of spiritual and a reflection, which really has done me well.
Ghana reopened its airport to international travel in September 2020. Several Americans chose to return home, but McCrorey didn't want to leave the freedom he felt as a black man in Ghana.
I've seen an increase in racism under Donald Trump, and I'm still hearing the empty promises from the Democrats even till today. Joe Biden, in my opinion, hasn't done anything for Black America yet. Being Black in America is just a very difficult thing to do, and you don't realize it until you're living in Africa, and in this case Ghana, long term, and then you start to just wake up every day as just being a man.
The African continent's lower COVID-19 infections and death rate has been attributed to quicker response, public support for action taken, favorable weather conditions, and a younger population. With experts warning Americans about a second wave with winter approaching, McCrorey saw no reason to go back when Ghana's airport opened.
It was going into the winter months. Coronavirus was still heavy in the media out there. People were still basically on lockdown out there. And here I am living free in the sun, and in Ghana, and being around, people who think like me, who look like me. I'm not dealing with the stress. I feel better every morning when I wake up. My worries weren't there, and it was like, go home to what?
During the pandemic, many people have made significant lifestyle changes. They have switched careers, uprooted their lives, and moved to other states. With the recent racial tensions in the U.S., some are even exploring the possibility of moving to another country. As the Black travel movement continues to gain momentum, some Black travelers are not only visiting distant locations, but they are also relocating. So is moving to another country the answer? Rashad McCrorey, expat and owner of Africa Cross Culture, a company which organizes tours to various African countries, is with us today to discuss. Rashad, good afternoon and welcome to BNC.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you with us because, I don't know, I may be like you someday. So, Rashad, tell us about your...
Blessings to you if you are.
Yes. So tell us about your experiences and what led you to embark on the journey of traveling and ultimately moving to another country.
I've been groomed for this since childhood. My father, the great Henry McCrorey, has been teaching me about African spirituality and the great kings and queens of Africa since I was about 5 years old. As I continued to develop, I had a fascination for the Atlantic slave trade. In 2015, I made my first trip to Ghana. In 2020, with my group Africa Cross Culture, I just happened to be in Ghana when the pandemic first broke out in America. When my guests went back, I actually decided to stay in Ghana rather than return home to the United States, and I've been here 19 months now.
Wow. And what's it been like for you?
It's been an amazing experience. In America, we deal a lot with racial oppression, systematic oppression, whether it's redlining, environmental injustice, me being an asthmatic, education reform, the prison industrial complex. But what I appreciate most about being in Africa is that I just wake up every day and being a man. One of the pros and cons of being in Ghana is that in Ghana, there's a sense of classism. However, for a Black American like me, it's actually a pro because I am the one in the higher social class. I'm able to leverage my American dollar and my Western experiences to live a high quality life here. And sometimes we do have our issues out here, but I'd rather have these problems of classism, of living the life of a celebrity, some may say, rather than dealing with systematic oppression and injustice.
And I noticed one thing you said is that I can be a man here. And we know being a Black man in America, being a Black woman in America is difficult, right? So Stevie Wonder and Dave Chappelle recently spoke about relocating to Ghana in response to all of the social injustice in the U.S. The singer spoke about wanting a better life for his children and grandchildren where they are valued and respected. What did you think about what he said?
What he said was very powerful because it's true. Here in Ghana and throughout the 54 African countries, I visited 9. over the last 6 years, there's a sense of nationalism. Ghanaians are proud to be Ghanaians. Kenyans are proud to be Kenyans. Ugandans are proud to be from Uganda. In America, us as Black Americans, me being a foundational Black American, both of my parents are from South Carolina, it's hard for us to have a sense of nationalism. In America, when you hear about nationalism, when we talk about former President Donald Trump, it's synonymous with racism. So being here in Ghana, it's a blessing because I'm not dealing with wondering, am I being marginalized? I go to when I'm in Harlem, I go to the corner store every day. They're the Yemenis. I go to the 99-cent store. They're owned by the Indians. I go to the supermarkets owned by Europeans. Here, I just see all Black everything, Black billboards, Black newscasters, Black movie stars, credits, all African names. And it just shows me what the empowerment of Black people can have when we leverage our economic power and also have the freedom to not be fighting against systematic oppression and racism.
Do you think that's why other Black Americans are exploring other opportunities in other countries?
Yes, definitely. Again, when you finally start visiting many of these African countries, you really see the effects of systematic oppression and racism. You start to realize that first you're welcome because you have your Black skin. Then you have favor because for many of us, we come here with our finances relatively in order. Even a middle class income, if you find a way to have your finances from America and transfer over, whether it's starting an online business, whether it's being a digital nomad. Once you're here in Africa, you automatically move up a social class. I say that a single person, if they find a way to have at least $2,000 a month in income, can live the life of somebody making well into the six figures here in America. So once you have that freedom and you have favor and you have classism that actually benefits you, rather than having racism and oppression actually pushing against you, you actually realize that you've been living a life and fighting a war, I don't want to say chained to shackle, but you actually have, weights on you that are now liberated.
Wow. Well, Rashad, you definitely tackled the pros and cons of being able to be a Black expat and laid it out for our viewers. We appreciate your time today, and I'm grateful to see you able to prosper and be successful at where you are.
Yeah. It's been a blessing.
Yes.
I always tell people, take the opportunity, take the chance. You may not be happy where you are now, but there's other places, whether it's a different state or a different country, where you can really thrive.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Rashad. We appreciate your time.
At 6, when the place you call home doesn't feel safe anymore, you have to make a change, and that's exactly why some Metro Atlanta families are doing.
A Decatur woman moved her family more than 5,000 miles away to Africa to protect them. CBS 46 anchor Tracy Hutchins has her story.
Well, Rick and Johnny, it is not just her, but others are doing it too, and for financial reasons as well. They are part of a growing trend to find a better life than what they have here in Georgia.
From gangs to the police to just having young Black men and raising young Black men in the society in the southern United States was just not safe.
Like any mother, Davisha Johnson worried that she could not protect her children.
Just sending him to the corner store was stressful.
The longer she stayed in Georgia, the harder it was, she says, to keep them safe.
I said, living in Decatur, Georgia, I realized that it was just going to be unsafe for my boys. Tamir Rice and then George Floyd really kind of caught me off guard.
Davisha, her 2 boys and daughter now live in Ghana, in West Africa, just one of many Georgia families making the great migration away from the United States.
Systematic oppression and racial injustice is at the top of the list. Black Americans, we deal with the prison industrial complex. I see hundreds of thousands and millions of Black Americans moving, whether for short-term stays or long-term stays, to Africa for at least another 50 years.
Rashad McCrorey is helping African Americans across the U.S. resettle in Africa through his travel company. He moved to Ghana from New York in early 2020. Lanton Delwyn Ray is already making plans to move to Ghana in the next 2 to 3 years.
There are some skill sets that we will bring to Africa that will help them enrich their business climate.
Could this be lucrative for you and your business partners?
Absolutely.
Here's why. The American dollar goes much farther in Ghana. The cost of living is 64% less compared to the U.S., according to livingcost.org. It is part of the reason why Ray already has business partners there for his company, Rainbow Aquaponics. Ray says he'll be able to teach West Africans how to grow their own business.
And using those gifts that you've gained here and enriching the culture there. So I think that's very, very important. It's been a long coming dream.
And a dream realized for a mother now able to protect her children.
For my first trip coming to Ghana, I realized that this might be a place where I can raise my children and not have to wake up as a single Black mother thinking about if my babies are going to come home or not.
Now, candidly, Davisha tells me she has no plans of moving back to Georgia. She says she went from living, in her words, in the hood to a 5-bedroom house in Ghana in the hills with an incredible view. So you can see why. Sean?
Tracy, thank you.
I'm what's now known as a foundational Black American, meaning that my parents are Black American, my grandparents are Black American, my great-grandparents are Black American. As far as we trace back, we haven't traced our lineage beyond the Americas, so we're known as foundational Black Americans. There's many diasporans, like Annie, you mentioned, is Ghanaian American. Her parents, I believe, were born in Ghanaian, but she was born in Ohio or born in New York. So there's definitely a stark difference between the foundational Black American and people from the diaspora. As far as speaking in regards of 2019 year return, it's more than just a slogan. It's more than just a investment pushed by the country, a very strategic and wise investment pushed by the country. It's also something that's more universal principles at stake. One of the things that we like to discuss is something called cyclical, meaning that people think time is just linear, meaning going straight. We just go, next year is 2022, next year is 2023, but things go in cycles. So not only was 2019 the year of return, which is the 400-year anniversary of Africans being enslaved and returning to and going to the Americas, starting in Jamestown, 1619. It's also the 100-year anniversary of the Great Migration. So what many people don't know, and knowing Rashad McCrorey, now everybody's going to be talking about the Great Migration like they heard of it before. Excuse me on that one. But the Great Migration started in 1916 through 1970. And that's when Black Americans moved from the South post-slavery, post-Reconstruction era to the North. So beginning in 1916 to 1970, Black Americans began moving from the South of America to the North of America, from South Carolina, where my parents are from. Again, I said I'm from Harlem, New York City. However, both of my parents are from South Carolina, slave states, and they moved to New York City, which is the North, in the 1960s. So I believe that this boom in tourism, this Great Migration, this repatriation is actually going to last for another 50 years till about the year 2070, because of the cyclical linear time that I just discussed. Right. So not only, just repeating for those who are not clear, I know I may be talking a little bit too fast, but again, 2019 marked the 400-year anniversary of the year of return, but also 2016 marked the 100-year anniversary of the Great Migration. So even in people's individual lives, they may also be going through personal cycles. So for people, when they start making their first trips to Ghana, whether it's now or in the future, it's not an accident. You're not too late. If you're looking for investment opportunities, it's not too late. Right. Whatever you desire, whether you want to meet a Black American, whether you have met a Black American or other diasporans, this is the time in your lifetime where you will have opportunities, so it's not too late to get involved, and don't wait.
All right, so I just want to find out from you, because you speak with so much knowledge about the movement that well, yeah. Yes, that's right, the movement that you're talking about. So I'm just curious, when was Africa introduced to you, or when, at what point in your life did you even hear about Africa, even to hear about Ghana?
Well, I've been blessed that my father, the great Henry McCrorey, started teaching me at the age of 5. I know it was at the age of 5 because when I was 6 years old, my family moved into a new apartment, and I remember all my original lessons being in my first home. Obviously, before I was 6 years old, so that's why I say 5. I learned about the great kings and queens of Africa. My father was something called a chematologist, which is modern-day Egypt. So now they would say Egyptologist, but those, a lot of Foundation Black Americans like to go back and say Kemet, ancient Kemet. Whenever you hear ancient Kemet, we're talking about ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, the tombs, the pyramids, the Nile River. So my father always taught me those things, even from a child, African spirituality, ancestral worship, pouring libation. These are things that I practiced since childhood. Now, my first trip to Ghana was 2015. Originally, I was going with a group trip. We were supposed to go to Cameroon in 2015. However, that's when the Ebola outbreak in Cameroon happened. So that trip was canceled. However, now it's more common knowledge. Africa is not a country. Africa is a continent with 54 different countries. And we was able to identify Ghana the right of Adobe. Ghana is known from many travelers as Africa for beginners in terms of just like the safety and the welcoming of the country.
Interesting. Yeah. So at 6, what were some stories that you were hearing about Africa?
Man, just about the great history, whether it's King Tut, King Nefertari, Ptah-hotep, King Hannibal, who just led West African King Hannibal just led the armies through the west, up through the northern, into the what's now known as the Middle East, and just conquered. Just about great blackness, because in the United States we have something called education injustice, education reform, where they say Black history only started with slavery. The only people we're allowed to look up to are entertainers, actors, or people who like to provide servitude to European people of European descent. We weren't taught about great Black people with our skin who did wonderful things, and that's what appeals a lot of Black Americans to Ghana now.
Right. So with all that knowledge that you had, you said you came into Ghana in 2015.
Yes.
Making a trip to Cameroon.
Yes.
Ebola broke.
Yeah.
So you had to come to Ghana.
Yeah.
So that was your first trip to Ghana?
That was my first trip to Africa.
Yeah. And then you found that Africa is not a country, it's a continent.
I knew that, but even to this day, you still live in Africa? Like, I live in Ghana. I live in Ghana.
I know, Africa is a continent. Ghana is just one of the countries.
Yeah.
But away from that, when you heard of the year of return in 2019, after your visit in 2015, did you ever come back? How did you feel when you heard about 2019? And even the theme for it being the year of return?
It was an amazing tinkering with it in 2013. I'm talking about like full time. That's why I was able to get some of the recognition, because I was able to show people, hey, I was doing this, about 5 years before the year of return. Here's my evidence, and then I was seen as a credible person. So in that component, it was more like a fulfillment of that mission of my life, to where many are now blessed with this being a new voyage in their life. For me, that was a period of fulfillment, of accomplishment, saying, wow, okay, now going back to Africa is actually mainstream. It would have been even more mainstream despite coronavirus, However, that dream of mine was coming true, because pre-social media in the 70s and 80s, people was coming to Africa and just keeping all the jewels to themselves. Families, fathers was leaving and never coming back. People was going on vacation there and changing their whole lives. So for me personally, it was a culmination of just all the things that you was taught as a child, a new journey. I believed I've gotten favor for a specific reason, a divine reason. And it was just like an amazing experience. And I'm just proud to be a major player and part of the year of return, beyond the return, and just everything. Even in this moment being here at 3FM, with Della Michael, I'm just, this is just all part of destiny. Yeah.
Hey, destiny. Yeah. But was it also part of destiny when you decided to move here? What do you mean?